Pokemon Champions was announced in this year's Pokemon Presents, and we think it has a ton of potential. But what might this game have in store for us, and what does it mean for the future of the franchise? Well, what's up fellas, my name is Matt, and that's what Elias and I are going to talk about today. We'll also discuss some features we'd like to see in the new game. Alright, let's get started.
What's up, I'm Elias, and the trailer for Pokemon Champions features two players taking part in a double battle. But said battle includes Aegislash and Dondozo, two Pokemon that haven't appeared in the same main series game before. Dondozo debuted in Scarlet and Violet, but Aegislash last appeared in Sword and Shield. So is this game going to feature every Pokemon? Will this be the first time we can use the full National Dex since Gen 7? Well, it's possible, but it won't happen right away.
According to the Pokemon Presents a couple weeks ago, not every Pokemon will be available when the game comes out. That's kind of a shame, but it does make sense from a balancing perspective. We'll talk more about that in detail a little later. Part of me hopes that every Pokemon gets added eventually, but that could lead to some absolute tomfoolery.
In Pokemon Champions, you'll be able to mix and match generational gimmicks. We don't know the exact details, but the trailer features a terastallized Dondozo and a Mega Charizard X in the same battle. Nice. So that leaves us with about 401 octotrigintillion questions. First off, will Z-moves and Dynamax also make an appearance? Will we get all 4 generational gimmicks in the same game? At this point, we can't know for sure, but anything is possible.
Game Freak could include every gimmick, but on the other hand, that can make battling incredibly chaotic. Imagine if you could use Dynamax and Terra on the same Pokemon. Both mechanics provide offensive and defensive benefits, so stacking one on top of the other would be wild. You'd be able to double your HP with Dynamax and also terrastallize into a better defensive type.
Most max moves deal more damage than the attacks they're based on, and Terastallization can give you yet another damage boost. For that matter, imagine if you could stack Terastallization with Z-moves. Chi-Yu already hits ridiculously hard, and it can use Terra Fire to turn its overheats into nuclear weapons. If it could hold a Firium Z on top of that, your opponent would just disintegrate. Thanks for playing.
Good morning, fellas. This is the first time we're recording in what, 3 weeks?
Something like that. Matt has me trapped in his basement. Please free me. Please free me from my...
We think it would be cool to have every gimmick in the same game, but there should be rule sets that restrict which ones are allowed, or mechanics that prevent you from using more than one on the same Pokemon. But it's entirely possible that only Terastallization and Mega Evolution appear upon release, since those are the main gimmicks of the Gen 9 games. You've got Terra in Scarlet and Violet, and Megas in Legends ZA. So we'll have to wait and see what Game Freak has in store, because they could very easily go either way.
Having a fine-tuned rule set is important in any competitive game, and that's especially the case if Pokemon Champions does bring back the National Dex. Shedinja wasn't included in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and for good reason. If Shedinja was able to Terastallize, it could become immune to most, if not all attacking moves. The simplest strategy is to choose Electric as your Terra type. Electric types only have one weakness, namely Ground. That means ground attacks are the only ones that'll deal damage, thanks to Shedinja's ability Wonder Guard.
But if you give Shedinja an Air Balloon, its ground weakness also becomes an immunity, meaning you can't be hit by attacking moves at all. So unless you're using 1,000 arrows on Zygarde, or something that bypasses abilities, you can only knock it out with indirect damage. This isn't an issue in the first part of games, because Shedinja doesn't exist in Scarlet and Violet. But Pokemon Showdown has a format called National Dex Anything Goes. In this meta, every Pokemon ever made is allowed with almost no restrictions.
Shedinja isn't immune to status moves, but it can avoid most indirect damage anyway, thanks to Cyclozar's move Shed Tail. That move generates a substitute that Shedinja can sit behind, which makes it immune to the vast majority of status moves. The sub also protects Shedinja from attacking moves, which allows it to explore other Terra types like Normal, Ground, and Poison. Most of these alternative sets use heavy-duty boots as a held item, which is useful because Shedinja is usually deathly afraid of entry hazards. Each Shedinja set has a different set of vulnerabilities. Terra Ground Shedinja is weak to water, grass, and ice, but in exchange it's immune to sand. Your team had to be ready to take on all of them at once, which severely restricts your team building options. But that's not even close to the worst part about National Dex Anything Goes.
Various cat Pokemon learn the move Assist, which lets you call a move that belongs to another Pokemon on your team. Liepard can learn this move, and it also has the ability Prankster. That means you can use Assist with +1 priority, which is incredible. Previously, Liepard used this move in combination with Dive, which proved to be broken in Gen 5 VGC. But in National Dex Anything Goes, it uses Assist with Revival Blessing instead.
This move allows you to revive a Pokemon to half health. By making Revival Blessing the only move you can call with Assist, the Liepard can bring each other back to life. Then they can rinse and repeat over and over and over for 2.927494819 quindecillion years. That's as good as it's gonna get. Revival Blessing has only 1 power point, but Assist has 32. So if you have 3 cats on your team, you can use Assist to revive your teammates 96 times. In between your revivals, you can slowly whittle away at your opponent's health by using various forms of residual damage.
Welcome back to an exciting episode of me tormenting Elias with big numbers. Revive Cats is one of the most miserable strategies to play against, so much so that National Dex AG was abandoned entirely. The online ladder for this format no longer exists. If this kind of stuff were in the actual games, it would be incredibly uncompetitive. Imagine if Pokemon Champions included the entire National Dex from the get-go, and all this foolishness was allowed. Your team would have to be prepared for every variety of terrassalizing Shedinja, as well as Revive Cats. By the time you do that, there's basically no room left for more creative team building. There are a few ways Game Freak could handle these issues.
First off, they could ban specific combinations to prevent these issues. To make sure Shedinja isn't a problem, Game Freak could ban it if your team also includes a Shed-Tail user. If your team has Assist users, they could ban Revival Blessing or rewrite the code so the move can't be called at all. Game Freak could also just not include the offending Pokemon in moves in the first place or nerf them in some way. At this point though, we don't know if Champions will ever feature the whole National Dex, so we can't know for sure how Game Freak plans on balancing the game.
There's one important thing that's worth noting here. At this point, the only gameplay we've seen is a double battle, so we don't even know if Champions will feature single battles at all. We think it's pretty likely that it will, because Game Freak also offers official single battle formats. Even though VGC is the primary competitive format, they also run a singles ladder with a similar rule set. Each Pokemon is set to level 50, and you have to choose which Pokemon come to each battle, the same way you do in doubles. VGC's format is bring 6, pick 4, but in singles you bring 6 and pick 3.
This format is colloquially called Battle Stadium Singles, and it's most popular in Japan. The rules are very similar to VGC, which leads to a very different metagame compared to OU. Since Game Freak has official singles and doubles formats in their games, we think it's very likely that Champions features single battles as well. But we don't have much information on the game so far, so we can't say that definitively just yet.
When Pokemon Champions was announced, people started wondering what it means for battle simulators. The most popular simulator is Pokemon Showdown, and we don't think it's going anywhere. Nintendo is well aware of Showdown's existence, and they've chosen not to take it down. In fact, Pokemon Showdown uses official battle music on the site, because they got explicit permission from Nintendo.
Pokemon Showdown is a positive force for the competitive scene, and Nintendo recognizes that. VGC tournaments are played on official hardware, but many players use Showdown as well. If you want to build a VGC team, Pokemon Showdown allows you to make it quickly. Then you can test it out in a simulator environment, before you decide whether you want to bring it into the official game.
Some VGC players use Showdown for entirely different reasons too. Wolf Glick once made a video where he played VGC battles, but he told his opponents which moves he was gonna pick by using Pokemon Showdown's chat function. Michael Kelch came in second at the VGC World Championships in 2023, but he's also incredibly accomplished on Showdown.
After I read this, I need to go get my water.
Alright.
Random battles are Pokemon Showdown's most popular offering by far, thanks to the fact that there's no team building involved. The game generates a random team of 6 Pokemon for you, and your job is to win with whatever resources you're given. At one point, Michael was the best random battle player, on 5 different accounts at once. Pokemon Showdown provides so many ways to play, which enhances the franchise's appeal as a competitive game. If Nintendo wanted Showdown gone, they would have obliterated it a long time ago, like everything else.
Alright, go hydrate.
I'll be right back.
Even when Pokemon Champions comes out, Pokemon Showdown will still have plenty of use cases. Showdown features ladders for official VGC formats, but it also includes many popular singles tiers. Their flagship metagame is Overused, or OU for short. This format features many differences compared to VGC. OU doesn't have a level limit, for example, so the vast majority of Pokemon are level 100 instead of level 50.
In VGC, Pokemon are banned or restricted based on what category they fall into. Box legendaries might be banned across the board in one format, but allowed with restrictions in the next. On the other hand, Smogon handles bans on a case-by-case basis. Most box legendaries aren't allowed in OU, but Zamazenta's hero form was unbanned in the current gen.
Meanwhile, some non-legendary Pokemon like Volcarona and Annihilape are banned, so they were sent to Uberth, which is the next tier up. When it comes to choosing which Pokemon are allowed, Smogon and Game Freak have completely different philosophies. Each format has various other restrictions as well. VGC bans multiple copies of the same health item on your team, whereas OU bans evasion strategies.
Playing OU battles on Pokemon Showdown has a lot of advantages. For one, it's way easier to enforce custom rules on a third-party simulator. If you're playing on Showdown and you try to use something that's banned in OU, they won't let you start up a battle until you modify your team. If you try to use something that's banned in OU on cartridge, Game Freak couldn't care less.
Smogon's formats aren't official, so the first-party Pokemon games aren't going to enforce their rules. Even if Pokemon Champions let you fully customize the rules to your liking, I highly doubt they would create something like an official OU ladder. Maybe you'll be allowed to create an OU-like rule set for games against friends, but a Game Freak sanctioned OU format is exceedingly unlikely. So battle simulators will pretty much always have a place in this world. Pokemon Showdown is unlikely to be taken down, and most players won't abandon it either.
Pokemon Showdown is also nice for a bunch of other reasons. Aside from the more standard formats like OU and Ubers, Showdown also includes about 777.2 something alternative metagames.
Novum Quadragentillion.
Yeah, that. Many of them introduce new features, which are impossible to replicate on cartridge without cheating. Let's take a super quick look at some of them, shall we?
Elias is allergic to the word Novum Quadragentillion.
I just see no reason to read it.
The reason to read it is that it's in the script, buddy.
Yeah, well, I can just say something and then you'll correct me and then I can just say, yeah, that. I figured out the hack, guys.
Almost any ability is similar to OU, but you can pick different abilities for each Pokemon. Some top threats include Adaptability Goldengo, Fluffy Great Tusk, Volt Absorb Corviknight, and Hadron Engine Latios. You can also take it a step further and play balanced Hackmons. On top of illegal abilities, you can also choose nearly any Pokemon, teach them almost any moves you want, and max out all their EVs. Arceus Ghost is a great Pokemon in this format, and it uses several moves it can't normally learn, like Shore Up and Mortal Spin.
Pure Hackmons takes that idea to the next level. Nothing is banned whatsoever, so you can use Eternamax Eternatus with maxed out defensive stats. In fact, Eternamax is virtually mandatory on every Pure Hackmons team in Gen 8. Its defense and special defense stats are so high, they can overflow to 0. As you'd probably expect, video games kind of freak out and soil themselves when they're forced to divide by 0. So if you give Eternamax the right stat spread, it becomes virtually invincible against either physical or special moves. So most teams have 2 or 3 Eternatus, and the entire metagame revolves around it.
There are tons of other metas offered on Pokemon Showdown. There are monotype formats, for example, where every Pokemon on your team has to share a type. So if I start with a Lomomola, I can only pick other water types to complete my team. In Stabmons, Pokemon can learn every move that matches their typing. That means you can use stuff like Combat Torque Annihilate or Beak Blast Landorus. Godly Gift allows you to choose one Pokemon to be your god, and everyone else on your team inherits one stat from said god.
Sorry, I'm watching funny cat videos.
You're fired.
These kinds of things will probably never appear in official Pokemon games, but it's fun having them available in simulators. Pokemon Showdown is a valuable resource for the competitive scene, and it's also in Game Freak's best interest to let it stay up. Showdown has been around for many years, and we imagine that it'll be around for many more, even with a first-party battle-focused game on the horizon.
With that out of the way, here's one thing we'd like to see in Pokemon Champions. Scarlet and Violet feature several types of battles, like singles, doubles, and raids, but there are a bunch of battle varieties that haven't been available in a long time. Since Champions is focused solely on battling, we think it's a good opportunity to bring them back. In particular, we'd be excited to see inverse battles make a return.
We made a video about them back in 2023, but to cut a long story short, this variation flips the type chart upside down. Every type weakness turns into a resistance, and vice versa. Water types normally resist water, fire, steel, and ice, but in inverse battles, they're weak to those types instead. Immunities also count as resistances, so flying types are weak to bug, fighting, grass, and ground.
Inverse battles are only available in Gen 6, but we think it'd be a good format to bring back. They completely turn the game on its head, and we think they're a lot of fun. Steel becomes one of the worst defensive types, and Normal becomes one of the best offensive ones. That's not the only type of battle that's been left behind either. This could also be a good time to bring back triple battles and rotation battles.
Pokemon Champions has a ton of potential. We live in a time where games can be patched, which means Champions could be the official competitive game for years to come. We don't know when it's coming out, but let's say it releases during Gen 9. If that's the case, competitive Pokemon could officially move from Scarlet and Violet to Champions.
But then when Gen 10? Who's writing this garbage?
I wonder who's writing this garbage.
Oh man. But then when Gen 10 comes out, Game Freak could simply add all the new Pokemon, moves, and mechanics into Champions. Then they could rinse and repeat for future games as well. Upon release, this game will be available for Switch, iOS, and Android, but it could be supported well into the Switch 2's lifespan, and even further beyond. The game has the potential to make competitive Pokemon more accessible, especially if we get more comprehensive team building tools.
It would be great if Pokemon Champions added a team builder, where we can fine-tune everything about our Pokemon in one place. In a perfect world, we'd be able to customize EVs, IVs, and Natures, choose a held item, and pick out our abilities and moves, all from the same menu. There's no guarantee that we get a better team builder in Champions, but there's one detail that makes us think it's possible. Pokemon that originate in Champions can't be transferred to Pokemon Home and brought into other games. Maybe that's because Champions will allow you to generate perfect Pokemon in a team builder, and they don't want you using them to get a leg up in other games. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but oh well.
Game Freak has simplified the team building process quite a bit in recent years, but it could still be improved. If you want to maximize your Pokemon stats, you can use bottle caps to max out their IVs, but minimizing their stats is another story. If you want a low speed stat for a Trick Room team, or a low attack stat to reduce confusion and foul play damage, there's no way to set your IVs to 0. You just have to catch a Pokemon that naturally has the lowest possible stats. A dedicated team building screen could bypass all of that.
Champions could also make competitive play more accessible in other ways. VGC is currently played in Scarlet and Violet, but you need other games to obtain certain Pokemon without trading. If you want to use Zacian or Zamazenta, you have to get them from Sword and Shield. Enamorus is my favorite Pokemon in the entire... Hey, that's lies. Enamorus is not my favorite Pokemon in the entire universe, but you can only obtain it in Legends Arceus.
If you want to use a Pokemon that's not native to Scarlet or Violet, chances are you'll have to spend $60 on a game they do appear in. So team building can cost more money than you expect. But if Champions has a team builder screen, you'll presumably be able to generate any Pokemon you need at no additional cost.
Here's one other thing I think Pokemon Champions could explore. While Matt was writing this script, I mentioned other options I'd like to see. Held items are allowed in competitive play, but bag items like potions aren't. But what if there was a format where a limited number of bag items were allowed? Many offensive Pokemon don't have access to recovery options, so what if you were able to use healing items on them? That probably shouldn't be a part of any main formats, but it would be fun to mess around with. More rule set options in general would be appreciated so that you can play however you want with your friends.
Pokemon Champions could also be very nice for videos like these. Here on MEPlaysGames, we use Pokemon Showdown for a wide variety of reasons, but the main one is how streamlined everything is. Creating a Pokemon and fine-tuning all its attributes takes a matter of seconds, and the battles themselves are also way faster than on cartridge. The animations are much shorter, and there are buttons to skip them entirely.
Matt has trapped me in his basement. To free me, I need all of you to subscribe and like the video right now.
Elias has also trapped me in his basement. Unsubscribe from the channel to free me.
Wait, don't unsubscribe. Don't unsubscribe from the channel.
Okay, what's going on with us today?
Almost every video we make includes footage from a Gen 7, 8, or 9 game. Even when we record these clips, we're still using Pokemon that were generated using Showdown's Team Builder. Once we have all the Pokemon we need, we use various tools to add them to the game we're recording. On average, each recording session requires about 15 to 20 Pokemon.
If we caught all the Pokemon ourselves, this process would take much longer. Not only would we have to catch 20 Pokemon, but we'd also have to go looking for specific moves and train the Pokemon up to a suitable level. If we had to go through that process for every video, a weekly upload schedule would be borderline impossible, unless we completely restructured our system for creating B-roll.
If Pokemon Champions has a more robust team builder, that could potentially save us a lot of time. We'd be able to generate Pokemon directly in a first-party game, then record battles with them right away. The fact that the game will be available on mobile is also nice. Matt is the one who collects all the footage for the channel, and whenever he records a Switch game, he's usually playing against himself. That's the easiest way to ensure we get the footage we need, because he's got full control over the entire battle.
I use my own Switch, then I borrow my mom's Switch Lite to act as my own opponent. But since Champions features cross-platform battling, I can just use my Switch and my phone. So a proper team builder can make recording these videos a lot easier. You know, as soon as I buy a capture card that doesn't have a medical emergency every 10 minutes. Recording Switch footage can take several hours, depending on how long the video is. But if Champions provides the right tools, it can very easily take as little as 45 minutes.
It's like how British people say aluminium.
Well, yeah, because they spell it differently.
No, they don't.
There was a whole argument on Wikipedia about whether the page for aluminum should be spelled aluminum or aluminium.
I'm American and ignorant, so it's aluminum.
Pop quiz, how many zeros are in an octotrigintillion?
120.
Extremely loud, incorrect buzzer. 117.
God damn it.
What did you name your, for alligator when you played, Soul Silver?
Tide. T-I-D-E.
How else would you spell tide?
T-Y-D-E.
Why would you do that?
To be different, I don't know.
Like, if you tell me tide, I'm gonna assume the normal spelling.
Uh-huh, well, that's what you think.
Yeah, that's what I think, because that's literally what just happened. Well, that's all we got for today. Leave a comment about Flaffy. Be sure to subscribe to MEPlaysGames if you're enjoying the show, and consider becoming a channel member. It costs as little as 99 cents a month, and you'll get to watch bonus content like deleted scenes, all while supporting the channel. Shoutouts to our newest member, Gyatzy, as well as all of our existing ones. We'll see you all next time. Good night, fellas. Sleep well.